Part 65. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 641. Chapter 641. I'll arrange it. Guzio was in coma for 2 days. He was still an active pistachio in the family group. He was missing for 2 days. The old lady missed him very much and asked where Zio was. Guzio said that he was on a business trip. This time it was a secret business trip. She couldn't reveal her whereabouts or news. She would be back in a week. Everyone knew the nature of Zio's work, so she didn't ask any more questions. Guzio just thought that Zio would get better soon. She was always in a state of anxiety, every day. They all stay in the hospital, but her kind of care is chaotic and not suitable for going to the operating table. Nanjing Hospital has added a resident general to work, so that Guzio can concentrate on taking care of Guzio's condition. The child was injured in a vital area. The situation was repeated and complicated. It was difficult to control the onset of the disease. His data had to be monitored at any time. It was useless to have so many people staying in the hospital. Guzio asked them to go back and rest. She and Lu Ziwen could be in the hospital. Li Zhang cooked food and delivered it, and also made soup. Guzio didn't know how to taste the food, but she still stuffed it into her stomach. No matter what her mood was, people were like iron and rice was like steel. She had to fill her stomach. To take care of Ziyu, she must not fall down first. She has such a belief that she will not allow anything to happen to her. She should eat and sleep when she should, check Ziyu's condition frequently, and talk to Guzio as much as possible. Both she and Lu Ziwen stayed with Guzio and talked to him from time to time. They would also tell some short stories so that Guzio could hear their voices. They would also play videos sent by their family members when they were traveling in Nanjing to tell Guzio. Zio and the others were watching the sea and basking in the sun in Nanjing. When Guzio woke up, they took Guzio with them. Zio liked to watch fireworks. When he recovered, they would set off many fireworks. Lu Ziwen was heartbroken. Guzio's condition worried him, and he couldn't persuade him. In the final analysis, this incident was his fault. When Zio wanted to watch the fireworks, he could have stopped him in time. It was easy for accidents to happen if people were crowded along the river. He thought that he had been relatively safe all these years, and that he had quit the Black Hawk, so there was no danger. Zio was doing technical work, and he was usually invisible. He could drive to and from get off work without any problems, and none of the cases he handled had his own problems. How can there be any big danger? Once people relax, they are in danger. There were too many people on the riverside on New Year's Day. The murderer was mixed in the crowd, making it difficult to track and distinguish him. His bodyguard Lu Feng went after him, but there was no trace. They could easily change themselves in the crowd and disappear without a trace. Kuoan, Black Eagle, and Ji Dao searched for 2 days and found nothing special. There were so many cameras in that area. They checked every camera carefully and found no trace. Ji Sun stared at it by himself. I checked, but there was no news. The more anxious I became, the better my patience was. Brother, when will you come back from your business trip? Zhang Junlin looked at the schedule and said, 4 more days. The energy issue has not been settled yet, and it will take a while. Zhang Junlin knew about Zio's situation, and he was not in a good mood. Some things were weighing on his heart like a stone, which made him very troubled. Can't have an attack again. There was no evidence, and they rarely discussed the circumstances of Ziyu's assassination in private. Chen Liangdong went through all the recent cases that Ziyu had handled, looking for clues. The probability of Guzio encountering a vendetta is very high. He handles all major and important cases, many of which are desperados. Therefore, the information of the national security information personnel is hidden very secretly, which is incomprehensible to outsiders. Moreover, Xiu is still young. Yes, many cases are secret files and are not recorded on the computer. They are all handwritten files and are kept locked in the data room. Zhang Junlin and Ji Xian also knew it, and it was probably a vendetta. Just like the anti-narcotics police, after the identity is exposed, there will always be someone seeking revenge. Chen Liangdong originally had 3 days off during the New Year, but after this incident, he returned to work, interrogating the recently arrested prisoners, hoping to find clues. In the ward, Gu Xi and Lu Ziwen were wearing sterile clothes and accompanying Gu Ziu. Gu Xi suddenly said, "If Ziu dies, will he go back to his previous life?" "Maybe," Lu Ziwen said softly, "he won't die." "But he died in his last life, what should he do?" Gu Xi's eyes turned red. Lu Ziwen said, "He won't die." "How do you know?" Lu Ziwen couldn't answer Gu Xi for a while. Gu Xi wiped his tears and said, "That's right. Even if Ziyu goes back, he probably won't seek death." "No, that's not right. With his character, he will definitely seek death. He thinks he can return after death come to us." The electrocardiogram was quiet, and Zio's heartbeat was fairly stable. There were no sudden events throughout the day and night, and he was recovering well. His condition was improving visibly to the naked eye. Lu Ziwen said, "Xiao Ci, you are too nervous. Can we go and take a rest?" Gu Xi shook his head, "I have to wait for him to wake up. If he doesn't wake up, I won't be able to sleep well." Lu Ziwen looked at the pale Gu Ziu, hoping that he would wake up soon. "It's my fault, I shouldn't have taken him to see the fireworks." Gu Xi shook her head slightly. She couldn't say whose fault it was, she could only say it was an accident. She couldn't blame Lu Ziwen just because she was assassinated. This matter had nothing to do with Lu Ziwen. The love scene is lively. It is rare to encounter such liveliness, so naturally you want to see it. When he wakes up, I will send a guard to follow him. Lu Ziwen also made a decision, "Okay." Gu Xi didn't expect such a far-off thing. She just wanted Gu Ziu to wake up early. Even if she had to arrange for someone to protect her, it would be arranged by the Jida. "Well, I will make arrangements." End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 642. Chapter 642 Health Bureau is good. Gu Ziu woke up at 3 in the morning, but when he woke up, Gu Xi was too tired and lay beside him without noticing. Lu Ziwen went to make tea for Gu Xi. No one was in the ward. Gu Ziu raised his eyelids. He fell asleep again and woke up again. It was already 5 o'clock in the morning, which was the quietest time in the hospital. When Gu Ziu was in the intensive care unit, he could only hear the sound of the equipment. What bad luck! Gu Ziu thought to himself, he just wanted to see the fireworks and take a photo, but he was stabbed again, still in the same place. He was really unlucky. His mother must be worried and kept nagging in his ear. Just because he was afraid that he would die, he was also afraid that he would die and go back to his previous life, or disappear altogether. That would be so worthless, and the good days have just begun. "Mom!" Gu Ziu called Gu Xi softly. Lu Ziwen heard his voice first and breathed a sigh of relief. "Hey, young man, you're awake. You're in good spirits." Gu Ziu rolled his eyes. He was still wearing an oxygen mask, which was uncomfortable to wear. Gu Xi was very surprised when he woke up. Knowing that he was uncomfortable, he slowly took off the oxygen mask and asked, "Does it feel uncomfortable?" Gu Ziu shook his head. The wound hurt a little, but he could barely bear it. Gu Ziu knew that they had been with him all the time. Gu Xi kicked Lu Ziwen out and asked the doctor and nurse to come over and check Gu Ziu first. The problem of waking up is not too big, and the body is in good condition, as long as it is taken care of. Guzi's hanging heart finally fell to the ground. After the examination, he was transferred to the general ward. Guzio just woke up and was exhausted. When he returned to the ward, he was exhausted. After falling asleep, Guzi gently stroked his cheek. If he survived the catastrophe, he would be blessed later. He would definitely be safe in the future, but he was just a little bit. If he went to watch the fireworks alone, the ambulance might not have arrived yet and the body would be cold. Fortunately, Lu Ziwen followed him and was sent to the hospital in a few minutes. He did not miss the golden rescue time. Guzio woke up from hunger for the third time. His pancreas was injured, he underwent surgery again, and a catheter was inserted. He could only drink soup and some liquid food. Guzio was afraid of embarrassment. The young man already knew that he was shy, so he refused. After drinking the soup, Shui Shui would rather be hungry. Guzi didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so she coaxed him to take a few mouthfuls of soup. Guzio knew that the elders would be worried, so he was confused in the group. Chen Liangdong brought a criminal police officer to take notes. Guzio explained the situation in detail. He walked forward with marshmallows in his hands and looked around while eating. There were too many people, including old people and children. Chirping and very noisy, he felt no danger in the crowd. He even felt nothing when he was stabbed. He only felt a cold and pain in his abdomen, and he couldn't walk when he lowered his head. He saw a knife stuck in his abdomen. So, you didn't see clearly who stabbed you? Chen Liangdong asked. Although this was a bit embarrassing, Guzio did not see it clearly. He carefully recalled every detail, but he still couldn't remember. There were too many people, everyone was dressed in ordinary clothes, every face was ordinary, and everyone's face was filled with the joy of the new year. He really couldn't think of it. Find out who is suspicious. Lu Ziwen knew that it was no wonder that Ziyu was so playful. He was not a front-line worker, so it was normal for him to be careless. The environment was messy, and the guards were at a loss what to do, let alone a child. I really can't remember. Guzio had a stern look on his face, trying very hard to remember. There is no special smell, or do you notice someone approaching you deliberately? No, I was watching the fireworks on the other side and didn't notice the people around me. I was in the middle of the crowd, surrounded by people. There was no special picture in Guzio's mind. It was a very ordinary outing and I was stabbed. The Interpol really couldn't ask anything, so he had to give up, express some concern, and say goodbye to Chen Liangdong. Guzio frowned and asked, "Why is Interpol here to investigate my case? We have sorted out the cases we have recently investigated, and 2 of them have been merged with the assassination case. Interpol is investigating the cases together, and they are investigating their own affairs, so there will be no impact." Chen Liangdong said, "Does the wound hurt?" It hurt so much, Guzio felt aggrieved. I got another stab and I'm going to have a scar. Lu Ziwen. Guzi chuckled and said, "Mom will take good care of you and there won't be any scars." Guzio pursed his lips and smiled. After Lu Ziwen sent Guzi out to rest, Lu Ziwen would also go back to the world. Guzio and Chen Liangdong were the only ones in the ward. Guzio said, "The murderer has a very strange mark on his wrist." "Tattoo, give me the pen and paper." Guzio did not have a very special picture in his mind, but the moment he was stabbed, perhaps out of conditioned reflex, he directly grasped the murderer's wrist. This was thanks to the fact that he wore a lot of clothes, a down jacket and a sweater, and a thermal underwear under the sweater. When the murderer stabbed him, he didn't expect that he wore so much, so the wound was not deep. Guzio held her hand instantly. Hands, the crowd was crowded, Guzio's voice was stuck in his throat, the murderer seemed to be hugging him, stabbing him hard into his body. Guzio held her wrist firmly, rolled up her sleeves. "She has a tattoo on his wrist." Chen Liangdong brought over the paper and pen. Gu Zia closed his eyes and thought about the tattoo. He drew it on the sketchbook. There were 5 stars dotted with flames and a circle of patterns. It was very complicated. After Gu Zia finished the drawing, he made a few modifications. All over, dark blue. Why didn't you tell the detective? I can't trust them, Gu Zia said. By the way, it's a woman. You sure? Sure, Gu Zia frowned. Although she had a crew cut and was wearing men's clothing, first, she was not as tall as me, and second, her wrist was too thin, not like a man's wrist. This kind of tattoo is very complicated. I will send someone to check the meaning of the pattern. You should recover first. Chen Liangdong thought of something. Have you seen her face? No, Gu Zia thought about it carefully. When I felt the pain, she hugged me sideways, and when she pushed in again, she walked away without looking back, as if she was passing by me. I only saw he has a flat head and is wearing a black down jacket and jeans. His face is not visible. Okay, I'll have someone analyze the surveillance footage again. You've seen her before. Even a silhouette is easy to find. Lu Ziwen's bodyguard followed the wrong person. He followed a man. He must have seen her wrongly. Gu Zia nodded. There were too many people at that time, and no one would suspect a thin and short woman. Chen Liangdong nodded. Okay, you have a good rest and give yourself a holiday. I don't want to have a holiday, Gu Zia gritted his teeth. I want to catch her. The attack was really ruthless, and he was rushing to take his life. Chen Liangdong couldn't help laughing. I usually wear a t-shirt and windbreaker when I go out. On such a cold day, I always ask you to wear more clothes. Fortunately, you have been obedient recently and put on a layer inside and outside. Otherwise, you would have dead. Gu Zia. Unexpectedly, when the elderly had a lifelong life. He also saved his life. These days, he was bloated and went to work. He was laughed at him in the department and his brothers and sisters in the department. He was laughed at several times, but he really didn't want to wear such thick clothes. That night was special, it was New Year's Eve, and the temperature was very low, so he was fully wrapped up again. Gu Zia breathed a sigh of relief and said, "The health bureau is great, wonderful. I will wear it like this in winter from now on. Character or whatever, it doesn't matter. Life is the most important." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 643. Chapter 643 Zhou Jinjin and Chen Fei. After Gu Zia woke up and recovered for 3 days, the pain from the wound gradually subsided. He just needed to be hospitalized to recuperate. Lu Ziwen had originally reduced the number of guards. He was afraid that something might happen to Gu Zia while he was hospitalized, so he asked his guards to guard him in the hospital. Chen Fei's 2-year peacekeeping mission in West Africa came to a successful conclusion. After landing, he took care of his chores and came to the hospital to see Gu Zia. Gu Zia had not seen Chen Fei for 2 years. Peacekeeping in West Africa was difficult and dangerous. What he went to was the most dangerous. In the fringe area of turmoil, several officers died. Chen Fei was not a son of a high-ranking cadre, and his family was not wealthy. He was born in a small town in the southwest. His parents were farmers and his brother ran a small restaurant. He lived a well-off and stable life. He climbed up step by step. He was spotted by Chen Liangdong during a joint special training. He was then trained by Chen Liangdong and sent to a military academy to study. He was also sent to the front line to plan for the future. He needed meritorious deeds, and meritorious deeds require blood. So Chen Fei has been on the front line in the past few years, never stepping back, and has almost no time for vacation. Gu Ziyi was very happy to meet Chen Fei. Chen Fei was tanned a lot. It was hot and sunny all year round, and the ultraviolet rays were very poisonous. A good young man almost turned black in 2 years. Gu Ziyi, you almost didn't recognize him. Come out, no matter how dark it is, you are still handsome. Did you get promoted to lieutenant colonel when you came back? Gu Ziyi probably understood his career plan. Chen Liangdong had been cultivating him for so many years, so Chen Fei would not change careers. Where are you going next? Chen Fei still looked honest, and said cheerfully, we are waiting for Bureau Chen's decision. Invitations have been sent out from all war zones. I haven't decided where to go yet. Let Bureau Chen decide. Chen Fei is an all-round talent. Although he is a sniper, he has a good view of the overall situation. He has been sent out for training and exchanges in recent years, and has grown very fast. He is a direct descendant brought by Chen Liangdong, and he really has to listen to Chen Liangdong's arrangements. He wanted to stay in Kuoan, but Chen Liangdong felt that Chen Fei was wasting his talents by staying in Kuoan. He could only shine in the army. Everyone is suitable for different positions. Gu Ziyi could figure out what Chen Liangdong meant. Chen Fei and Gu Ziyi took a different route. There are only a handful of lieutenant colonels under the age of 30, they are awesome. Gu Ziyi gave him a thumbs up. Chen Fei also gained it with his own merits, which is very rare. Chen Fei blushed a little when he was praised. You have to take good care of your injuries. Director Chen said you worked very hard. In fact, you are still young, so you have to take your time. Gu Ziyi chuckled and said, I devote myself to the country with all my heart, and I really don't have any extra thoughts. How can you say it and no one believes it? Chen Fei was chatting with Gu Ziyi about the interesting things they had done abroad in the past few years. Zhou Jinjin brought a big fruit basket to Gu Ziyi. He was very surprised to see Chen Fei and almost didn't recognize him. Chen Fei recognized Zhou Jinjin. Zhou Jinjin is wearing a sweater dress, long boots, a coat, and a Hermes on her shoulder. She is very stylish. Her hair is permed into wavy curls and she wears sunglasses. She looks like a glamorous star, with 70% beauty and 30% temperament. Combined into a very good appearance, and the specially trained figure walks with a lot of charm, which is completely different from the Zhou Jinjin that Chen Fei met a few years ago. Chen Fei was so struck by the beauty at close range that he was speechless for a moment and did not dare to look at Zhou Jinjin. Zhou Jinjin is very popular with the audience. Her popular TV series have become popular at home and abroad. Chen Fei has watched several of her TV series. The characters and plots are very good. He has watched them all from beginning to end. He has not seen Zhou Jinjin for 2 years. He is much thinner in real life than he looks on TV, and looks like a paper man. Damumuo, it's really you. Zhou Jinjin put down the fruit basket and looked at Chen Fei in surprise. Wow, this military uniform is very handsome. Chen Fei was wearing an army uniform, which was very stiff. He had the temperament of a soldier brother, so he looked particularly good in this uniform. Zhou Jinjin stared at him with bright eyes. Chen Fei scratched his head in embarrassment. I've watched many of your TV series. Zhou Jinjin. You, a grown man, actually watch TV series with big female protagonists? Aren't you going to watch some hot-blooded spy drama, military drama type? No matter how hard it is, you should watch martial arts dramas. Most of our heroine dramas are in love. Aunt Jinjin, why are you here? Gu Ziyi saw that Chen Fei couldn't hold back a word for a long time, so he quickly smoothed things over. Zhou Jinjin said, Xiao Ci said that you were stabbed and almost died. Are you okay? Let me see. She didn't show any concern at all, and lifted up his clothes. Gu Ziyi hurriedly pulled the clothes to block it. I have grown up. You can't just lift my clothes and look at my abs. Zhou Jinjin laughed, you just cut the chicken for nothing, where did you get your abs? She pointed at Chen Fei, only others have abdominal muscles, but you don't. Gu Ziyou blushed with anger, I do. Okay, 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 you have it. Zhou Jinjin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The young man didn't even have hair, and he still cared about his figure. Zhou Jinjin's eyes drifted all the way to Chen Fei, Damumua, aren't you on a business trip abroad? It's the peacekeeping force. Is this a holiday? Chen Fei shook his head, the term is over. Oh. Zhou Jinjin took out an orange from the fruit basket, peeled it, and gave it to Gu Ziyou to eat. Are you not leaving? Yeah, Chen Fei nodded. You have been abroad for 2 years, why do you feel so dull? Tell me what you said, where did the energy you used to quarrel with me go? Chen Fei said nervously, I have never won an argument. That's true, Zhou Jinjin's verbal skills cannot be resisted by ordinary people. Gu Ziyou ate half of the orange and was very sour, Aunt Jinjin, aren't you filming recently? I have stayed on the set for more than 200 days. I am taking a break just after the new year. The next time I join the set will not be until April. Recently, I have been shooting for magazines, eating, drinking and having fun. There is nothing important. I originally wanted to ask Xiaosai to play, as a result, she had to work until April, and we missed the holiday perfectly. Then you go and have fun with Chen Fei. He also has 2 months of vacation. Chen Fei has just finished his term and has 2 months of vacation. As soon as these words came out, Chen Fei and Zhou Jinjin were both suddenly silent, and they both looked at Gu Ziyou intently. Gu Ziyou bit into the orange and had only one thought, it was really sour. What's wrong? After eating a piece of sour orange, Gu Ziyou noticed that they were looking at him strangely, and their eyes were a bit incomprehensible. Zhou Jinjin said, do you think it's appropriate for me to travel with him alone? By the way, Chen Fei, do you have a girlfriend? Chen Fei's head shook like a rattle. Oh. That's not to say that we can't consider it. When Zhou Jinjin came to the hospital, he originally wanted to see Gu Ci, but no one knew that he didn't see Gu Ci. As soon as Chen Fei left, Zhou Jinjin said, Ziyu, I will come to see you next time. Eat more fruits and supplement vitamins, get better quickly. Good. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 644. Chapter 644, Guard Against Death. Gu Ci returned to the ward after the operation and did not see Zhou Jinjin. Where is Jinjin? Gu Ziyou was reading a comic, she's gone. Why are you leaving? She and I haven't seen each other for a long time, and we even asked to have dinner together. Gu Ziyou put down the comic and said in a daze, she may have to catch up on announcements, shoot for magazines or something. Popular celebrities have busy schedules. She deliberately took a few months off without arranging work, and she didn't give any notice this week. Gu Ci took the phone and said, I'll ask her. While sending a message to Zhou Jinjin, she poured water for Ziyu and asked casually, does the wound still hurt? It hurts, but not too bad. Gu Ziyou said, Grandma and the others will be back tomorrow. Should I go home to recuperate, or should I continue to be in the hospital? Recuperate in the hospital. I said you are on a business trip. You will be discharged after a week if there are no special circumstances. The murderer has not been caught, so I don't feel at ease. Gu Ci knew that Gu Ziyu had met the murderer, and the National Security and Interpol had been there were no clues. Ziyu provided accurate information. The National Security Bureau did see someone from the surveillance. If Gu Ziyu hadn't confirmed that she was a woman, they wouldn't have known she was a woman. He had a crew cut, dressed like a man, and behaved like a man. He was a professional killer. He kept his head down and never looked at the camera, so he didn't take a frontal photo. Even if a frontal photo was taken, it might not be real and of little use. The National Security Bureau has a psychological profiling department has drawn up the murderer's height and body shape, which is about 1.7 meters. He is thin and capable. The tattoo pattern has not been found to have any meaning. Gu Ci feels that the hospital is safer. Lu Ziwen's bodyguard to guard him, Chen Liangdong also sent people to guard him. Zhou Jinjin replied to Gu Ci's message. After seeing the message, Gu Ci was slightly startled. Chen Fei is here. Gu Ziu nodded, yes, his term has ended and there is no new transfer order. He has 2 months of vacation. The old man probably won't let him take the full 2 months. He hasn't seen his family in the past few years. He may have to go back. Let's go home for a while. Chen Fei's hometown is a small town in the southwest with beautiful scenery. Gu Ci took Gu Ziu to play there. He doesn't have a girlfriend yet. He is working abroad, and they are all men. They are almost boyfriends, but there are no girlfriends. Because of Ji Sun, Gu Ziu has a different view of marriage and love than others. He feels that liking someone has nothing to do with gender. Love is not necessarily between a man and a woman. This concept has been deeply ingrained and there is no way to change it. Hence, he is very tolerant of personal emotions. Okay, then you don't have a boyfriend. Gu Ziu shook his head. How do I know? Why do you care so much? Just asking, Gu Ci said with a chuckle. She lowered her head and sent a message to Zhou Jinjin and ignored Gu Ziu. Gu Ziu shouted several times but no response came from her. Gu Ziu pursed her lips. Poor mother ignored her. When Lu Ziwen came, Gu Ci went to check the ward again. He didn't come to see Ziu for 1 day. Gu Ziu said angrily, I am really your cheap son. No one will care about me when I wake up. Who cares, such a big young man didn't hurt his limbs or become bedridden, so why are he still complaining? Lu Ziwen smiled and washed an apple for him. Aren't you going to peel it? Gu Ziu disliked it, so the old man peeled it for him every time. Eat more peels for good nutrition. The peels are full of pesticide residues. This is a special apple. There is no pesticide residue. You can eat it after washing. You are so delicate at a young age. Did you learn from Zhang Junlin? Lu Ziwen fired indiscriminately. Gu Ziu never expected that he could cover Zhang Junlin. Gu Ziu said with a smile, do you dare to say it in front of your uncle? Why don't you dare? Gu Ziu gave a thumbs up, no wonder uncle hates you. Who wants him to like it? Gu Ziu took the apple and took a bite. He had lost a lot of weight in the past few days and had no appetite for eating. He only ate fruits. Gu Ci felt that if he was recovering from his injuries and could not eat well, he would always feel uncomfortable eating cold food. Dr. North did it. Gu Ziu still had little appetite for many medicinal foods that nourished blood and qi. He was already picky during his illness. She lost 5 or 6 pounds just by eating fruit. When Zhou Jinjin mentioned this to Zhou Jinjin, he was still envious and jealous. She had to eat boiled vegetables every day to lose weight and did not dare to eat more fruit. Have you found any clues? Gu Ziu asked. Lu Ziwen disappeared for a day, just to investigate Gu Ziu's case in person. He carefully looked at the surveillance cameras transferred by Ji Xian that day and compared them with the cases Gu Ziu handled. From the beginning, Lu Ziwen ruled out the possibility of Mr. Wang taking action. First of all, people like Gu Ziu are national treasures and cannot be protected in time, so how can they be destroyed? Secondly, there is no benefit at all in touching Gu Ziu and it will only anger Zhang Junlin. Thirdly, Gu Ziu and Chen Liangdong have the same heart, and they will also have the same heart as him, and they belong to him. Lu Ziwen may have killed Gu Ziu because of his vendetta. His and Gu Ziu's identities have not been exposed and no one knows about it. They will not vent their anger on Gu Ziu, but only Gu Ziu will be retaliated against. Gu Ziu is relatively clear about the cases he has handled. I usually stay in the dark and have never been exposed. Didn't you and Chen Liangdong go on a business trip to Haikan? Lu Ziwen said. After you came back from Haikan, did you feel like someone was following you? Gu Zio shook his head, feeling nothing. He was picked up and dropped off at work every day, and Lu Ziwen occasionally came to pick him up from get off work. If Lu Ziwen didn't come, he would just take a taxi at will, and he really didn't feel like anyone was following him. She probably didn't kill you on a whim. She had been preparing for a long time, and she killed you with one move, so she would be fully prepared. Lu Ziwen said. It was an impromptu decision that you wanted to watch the fireworks that day, but she was able to be found in the crowd. I must have been following you for a while. Gu Zio's hair stood on end. He didn't even notice that someone had been following him for so long. Then what did you find? Give me the details of the major cases you have handled. Gu Zio was a little embarrassed. Chen Liangdong actually gave the case to Lu Ziwen, but he didn't give it a thorough report and kept a little information. Lu Ziwen could see it. Will Dad harm you? Lu Ziwen saw his embarrassment. The sooner you investigate this matter, the sooner your mother will feel at ease. Okay, I'll discuss it with the old man. Lu Ziwen nodded. Gu Zio also had other thoughts now. He and Chen Liangdong had a close relationship. He regarded Chen Liangdong as his teacher. There was only one secret between them, which was that he was Lu Ziwen's son. He didn't deliberately hide it. Chen Liangdong, it's just that the truth is too shocking to tell. How can he explain it perfectly? Gu Si has received a lot of patients recently. She is afraid that someone will test Ziyu through her, so she pays special attention to patients with tattoos on their wrists. It is winter, and everyone wears more clothes, so they may not be able to see their small arms. Gu Si is seeing a doctor. Sometimes she would intentionally ask them to roll up their sleeves, but she was in the inpatient department, not an outpatient department after all. If they really had to be sent to her, the situation would be much more serious. The murderer would not get sick for the sake of Ziyu. Lu Ziwen's guards guard the ward every day, and there are also people surveying the floors. It has been calm in recent days. If this kind of professional killer fails once, he will probably do it a second time. If he is seeking revenge, his methods will not be so professional. After Gu Si had this layer of worry, the supervision at the hospital became stricter. It was originally extremely strict. In the hospital on the road, North simply sent more people to guard the inpatient department. Every day, many people mingled with family members and patients to investigate the situation, so they could strictly guard against it. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 645. Chapter 645. You have to understand us. Zhang Junlin followed Mr. Wang and the Crown Prince to discuss oil supply. After 3 days of talking, they finally got some insights. Everyone in the delegation breathed a sigh of relief. In addition to talking about energy, they also talked about financial cooperation. This is Zhang Junlin's specialty, and also the reason why he was brought here is that only Zhang Junlin can know more clearly the appropriateness and profitability of negotiations. Before the negotiation, Mr. Wang gave him a free scale and let him use it. Zhang Junlin found it difficult to negotiate. He was used to a strong style. This was very useful in the business field, but it seemed a bit awkward at the negotiation table. It's hard. We are an energy importing country, and the other party's oil is cheaper than water, so we have the initiative. Mr. Wang gently reminded Zhang Junlin not to be too strong, and to show weakness when it is necessary, but not to lose face. The first time Zhang Junlin negotiated, he failed to reach an agreement. When he came back, he summed up his experience and watched several other people's negotiation skills. Mr. Wang didn't know what his mentality was, and he didn't send anyone to help, leaving Zhang Junlin to perform on his own. This job is no easier than the front line. Every word is an invisible trap and an invisible knife. If you are not careful, you will fall into passivity. Zhang Junlin is like a new man in the workplace. He has quickly changed his usual boss mentality in the financial circle. The second negotiation went much smoother. The crown prince was about the same age as him, and the two even arranged a private round of golf. After this scene, Zhang Junlin felt like a fish in water. Mr. Wang said to the people around him, "Did you see that a person like Zhang Junlin can do very well no matter where he is placed? This ability is innate. Yes, you are always training him." Lao Wang shook his head. "I want everyone to see one thing clearly. Everyone always wanted to restrict the Ji Dao and Zhang Junlin. They were afraid of his monopoly, fear of his alienation, and fear that his being with Ji Sun would harm their own interests, so they kept putting a knife on Zhang Junlin's neck and forcing him. Chang Junlin has endured for so many years and has never done anything to disgrace his family and country. When a spring is pushed to a limit, it will inevitably rebound. Everyone knows this. It is better to block it than to open it up, so why bother to restrict it everywhere? As long as he is dedicated to the country, he should be held in his hand. The sharp weapon of the country should be held in the palm of his hand and pointed at the enemy, rather than turned against himself. I heard that his son was assassinated. How is the situation?" "Thrilling, it should have been a one-shot death," the secretary said, giving him a copy of the video. "A person was assassinated on the riverside. He arrived at Nanjing Hospital in 3 minutes and did not miss the rescue time. If ordinary people were waiting for an ambulance, the ambulance would not be there yet. By then, the body will be cold." When Gu Zia was assassinated, a video was taken. The video was timed. What time he was sent to Nanjing Hospital was also recorded. At that time, Gu Xi was too busy to take care of him. He only wanted to save Ziyu. Every operation was done. The hospital has archives, and Gu Xi also forgot to change the time. By the time she remembered, it had been 2 days, and anyone who cared would know something was wrong. The distance between Zhongbian and Nanjing Hospital is 11 kilometers, and you can get to Nanjing Hospital in 3 minutes, unless you take a rocket. Lu Ziwen. The secretary nodded. Lu Ziwen took him to the riverside to watch the fireworks and was assassinated. Fortunately, Lu Ziwen was by his side. The rumors are true. How did he do it? Is it really miraculous? Is it really a special function? Mr. Wang has seen a lot in his life, but he has not seen through this matter. Lu Ziwen's statement is that he was captured by Tang Mingzhou for experiments when he was a child. His body was different from other people's, and it was not visible on the outside. Tang Mingzhou died, and there was no evidence of his death. There was no problem with the data at the research institute, so the matter was dropped. The secretary said, "There are indeed many secrets about this man." Lu Ziyi also boasted that his son could recite an ancient poem fluently at the age of 3. He has been a genius since he was a child. Genius. Wang Lao said with a smile, "Gu Ziyu is also a genius." The secretary chuckled and said, "Yes. This group of people is really full of fog." Mr. Wang sighed. "No one can move. Zhang Junlin and Lu Ziwen don't like each other, and they don't have much communication in private. If it weren't for Gu Xi, they probably wouldn't have spoken even half a sentence, and they have been like this since they were young. So what? They are a family. Brother-in-law and uncle-in-law can be strangers to each other. This is a very terrifying force, but fortunately it is in the hands of Zhang Junlin. They have thought about dealing with Zhang Junlin, but they know very clearly that Zhang Junlin will not betray them." Zhang Junlin came back from playing golf. The negotiation was basically settled and everyone was happy. Mr. Wang did not expect it to go so smoothly, but it seemed that everything was as expected. Zhang Junlin has always been very reliable in doing things. After everything was done, it was almost time to leave. Zhang Junlin was ready to return home. He had been uneasy after knowing that Gu Zia was assassinated. Although he had made a video call and knew that Guzio was safe, he still had to take a look to feel at ease. Lao Wang said, "How is your son's health?" "Tofu, everything is fine," Zhang Junlin replied cautiously. Mr. Wang said, "Guzio was assassinated on the riverside and showed up at Nanjing Hospital 3 minutes later. How do you think he did it?" Zhang Junlin said quietly, "I don't care what happened. I only care that if it were not for the golden rescue time, I might have lost him. He is my only son. Do you not care, or do you know what's going on? Is this important?" "Important." Zhang Junlin said, "I know that Lu Ziwen has some special powers, but he can't explain it himself, let alone others. If you really want to know what's going on, it's better to go to the group of scientists from the Pentagon. They are now scattered everywhere, maybe reunited, we can figure out what's going on." Mr. Wang chuckled, "Are you sure we can't find it? Maybe you don't know something. There happened to be a scientist working at the research institute. After changing his name, others didn't know he existed. According to him, Tang Mingzhou did not lose. Iwan was not captured for research, but Ji Xian was treated as a research subject for a while." Chang Junlin. He knew nothing about such news, and Zhang Junlin also wanted to be on guard against Wang Lao deceiving him. "Then I don't know," Zhang Junlin said, "if it weren't for Xiaosai, Lu Ziwen, and I might not have crossed paths. I haven't liked him since I was a child, and I don't know much about him." Mr. Wang chuckled lightly, "Don't be nervous, Zhang Junlin. The relationship between Lu Ziwen and you is complicated. I won't do anything to him. We all have people we care about." Zhang Junlin thought to himself, "What does he mean? Is he showing favor? We have known about the matter between you and Ji Yun a few years ago. It is indeed very complicated to deal with. We have indeed used some means to make you and Ji Yun have a bad memory. Zhang Junlin, we also need to understand our position." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 646. Chapter 646. I am Lu Ziwen's son. Zhang Junlin chuckled and said, "Mr. Wang, I have never taken these things to heart. It is the test of the organization. It is my fault. You are not reassured. It is because I am selfish and do not take the overall situation into consideration. I have to fight with Ji Xian, mix it up, it's all my fault, and I would do the same thing if I were in your shoes." Afterwards, Mr. Wang asked his secretary, "Do you think what he said was sincere?" "It's not like he's telling you the truth," the secretary said. "Mr. Zhang is very smart. If he's really angry, he won't tell you." Lao Wang said, "Young people today are so thoughtful." The secretary smiled but said nothing. The Saudi delegation came to a successful end, and Zhang Junlin's figure flashed across the TV. Guzio had nothing to do to eat fruit and watch TV, and he immediately caught sight of Zhang Junlin. Among a group of old men, he was really too handsome and conspicuous. Ji Huan came to the hospital more diligently than Lu Ziwen, and wrongly complained, "You really look like a little dad." Ji Sun didn't care about being single and brought delicious food to Xiu every day. Guzio couldn't eat more than 2 bites, so he fed him all by himself, which made Gu Si's eyelids twitch. After Lu Ziwen and Zhang Junlin, Gu Si is the third person who feels that they need to keep a distance. Gu Si was lying ill and asked, "When can I be discharged from the hospital? It's so boring in the hospital, and I'm not allowed to play on the computer." "Why aren't you allowed to play on the computer?" "I can't control myself when I play computer games. I always sit in front of the computer, which hurts my health. My mother deprives me of my fun." Guzio said, "Tell my dad and let me go around the world to recuperate. Global is quite safe, but it won't work if I tell you this, let Zayasai do it. They all refused. Guzio was very sad. He went to Universal City to recuperate, and his father would not be able to come to the hospital to see his mother often. Sima Zhao's heart was known to everyone. The son is the tool man. Follow the doctor's advice. Ji Xian felt distressed and helpless. As long as Guzio's expression looked too pitiful and endearing, when brother comes back, I won't have time to care about you anymore. Oh, is it better to say goodbye than to get married? You also know that a little separation is better than a new marriage. What's so hard to understand? Ji Sun, what do you usually do after a breakup or a wedding? Guzio was confused for a moment. What are you doing? Ji Huan laughed and pinched his face. You are such a baby. He understands everything at this age. Third Master has been catching your murderer recently, and he has some clues. Ji Xian said, when I catch him, I will stab her 3 times and 6 holes to make up for the pain of walking around the gate of hell. You must kill her. Guzio covered the wound, it hurt so much. Guzi, I said softly, calm down. I can't be calm. I have a good New Year's Eve. I went around the gate of and almost stepped into the underworld. This revenge must be avenged and cannot be forgotten. Guzi Iu is still very vindictive. No matter whether you are a man or a woman, if you harm him, you have to pay back 10 times. Guzio has never suffered a loss since he was a child, and all the losses he has suffered are slowly recorded and repaid together. Guzi I couldn't help but laugh, looking at his face that was so thin and pointed. She felt really distressed. Chen Liangdong and North have both appeared in pairs recently. After they got married, they took their daughter to visit relatives for 2 days during the New Year. They went to the hospital on time every day to see their daughter, and they didn't stay in the hospital for long. Chen Liangdong came alone in the evening. Guzio said something important, so Chen Liangdong came alone. There were guards from Lu Ziwen at the door, so it was very safe. Guzio and Chen Liangdong never play tricks. I have something that I haven't told you. Of course, I didn't hide it from you on purpose, but I didn't know where to start and it was a bit embarrassing. Chen Liangdong pretended to be all ears. Guzio looked at him very tangledly, feeling that if he didn't say anything, he would have an uneasy conscience. I tell you, you have to keep it a secret. Say it, baby. Chen Liangdong would occasionally call him baby. I am Lu Ziwen's biological son. Chen Liangdong was startled. What? If it's true, I am his and Guzi's son. Guzio pursed his lips. Although it sounds outrageous, I am really their son. How is that possible? Chen Liangdong shouted in surprise. How old are Lu Ziwen and Gu Sike? How could they have a son as old as you? When they first met Guzio was 7 years old, Lu Ziwen was only 21, and Gu Si was only 18. Your mother couldn't have given birth to you at the age of 11. Chen Liangdong had never heard of such an outrageous thing, and he was even more confused. Are you hysterical? Chen Liangdong is a person who has seen all kinds of things. I have checked that you and Zhang Junlin are indeed related by blood. How could you be Gu Si's son? Have you checked the blood relationship between my uncle and me? Why not check? You didn't tell me. Chen Liangdong looked at Guzio's expression as if he had betrayed my trust, and was a little speechless. Anyway, that's what happened. Believe it or not, the hospital is right here and it's very convenient. Why don't you verify it too? Guzio didn't do anything. I'm not lying. If I weren't Guzi's son, my uncle so nice to me. You are Lu Ziwen's son, why did you adopt him to Zhang Junlin? There is a last resort reason. It's quite complicated. It's not easy to say. It's a personal reason. Think about it. I got to the hospital in 3 minutes. I became Lu Ziwen's son. Isn't it not that difficult to accept? Chen Liangdong. Good night. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 647. Chapter 647. The artist loves the muse. Chen Liangdong returned home feeling uneasy. North and Qinwan were cooking. Qinwan was the one causing trouble in the kitchen. She didn't know how to cook and had no interest in it, so she could barely do anything. "Dad, you're back, you look so bad, what's wrong?" Qinwan poured him a cup of hot tea. North also looked at him curiously. Chen Liangdong didn't say anything, sitting beside him as if he was numb. North knew that he had gone to the hospital to see his son, so he waited for him to come back for dinner. He motioned to Qinwan to bring the soup. The last dish was also ready. It was the season of autumn bamboo shoots, and Dr. North cooked a pot of old duck. For the bamboo shoot soup, blanch the autumn bamboo shoots and shred them, add onion, ginger, garlic and millet and stir-fry until fragrant, then stir-fry the chopped onion to get oil, stir-fry as many times as you like, and then it's done. Then make a salt and pepper shrimp and a garlic pumpkin. Steamed pork ribs and a portion of stir-fried kale, a healthy and fat-reducing dinner for a family of 3. Chen Liangdong works hard and is thin. I don't know where I heard rumors recently that he eats tender grass. He never cares about his gray hair due to hard work. He rarely dyes it black. Dr. North keeps him warm with medicinal food every day, and his energy is strong. He is feeling much better. Qinwan said that his father is in high spirits during happy events and is getting younger and younger after getting married. Chen Liangdong was dizzy by the explosive news. He was very quiet during the meal, but not indifferent. Even though he was frequently out of town, Qinwan asked several questions but couldn't answer the questions. He was out of state. North and Qinwan looked at each other and knew that he must be troubled. Qinwan didn't bother him anymore. This was the job. They had different identities and couldn't interfere. After all, the confidentiality system of the National Security Bureau was very strict. After dinner, North and Chen Liangdong went for a walk in the community. The two held hands and were very affectionate. Chen Liangdong suddenly asked, "Do you know whose child Xiu is?" Xiaosai and Lu Ziwen's North also knew why he was in a bad state. "You went to the hospital, did Xiu tell you?" "You actually know?" "I've known about this for a long time." North chuckled and said, "Are you bothered by this?" "I thought it was a matter of work." "Don't you think it's scary?" "How old are Lu Ziwen and Gu Xi? How could they have a son as old as Gu Xiu?" Chen Liangdong didn't understand at all. It was impossible for Gu Xi to be pregnant with Gu Xiu at the age of 11. In ancient times, there were many ladies who got married at the age of 11 or 12. Sang, I studied biology." Dr. North lowered his head and chuckled, "This matter is a bit complicated." "What does Ziyu say?" This said that after he was injured, he went to Nanjing Hospital in 3 minutes from Binjiang. So it's not surprising that he is the son of Gu Xi and Lu Ziwen. Could it be that Gu Xi gave birth to him when he was 18, and he grew so big after blowing his breath? Chen Liangdong thought of Gu Xiu's wretched face and still had a heart attack, and couldn't help but put his hope in North. "Do you know what's going on?" Dr. North shook her head. In fact, she didn't understand either. She also thought about many possibilities, but Gu Xi never mentioned it. However, there were many very weird things about Gu Xi's behavior. "Xiao Xi, how should I say, I was in prison back then. At that time, Xiaosai had just finished her college entrance examination and suddenly came to me and asked me to perform an operation on her grandma. I kept my name anonymous because I wanted to avenge Xiaoying. Not many people knew that I was in prison. How could Xiaosai, a high school student, know my identity? At that time, she and her master had not known each other. Later, when I arrived at the hospital, she was already operating on the old lady. Her technique was very skillful. A surgeon who had not practiced for several years would never have had this kind of technique. She was too young at the time. I was thinking, not only is Xiaosai only 18 years old, she has too many secrets, and she has a very cold temperament and it is difficult to talk to someone. However, she is quite close to me and very afraid of me when she came to the hospital. I used Little Cherry as bait. Very few people knew about Little Cherry, so I had an idea at the time. Xiaosai seemed to have lived a lifetime and had to do it all over again. So knowing everything about me, what happened to Zi would not be difficult. I understand, of course, this is my own conjecture and I have not verified it. Why don't you ask for proof? After the verification, Dr. North asked with a chuckle, what does it matter if you live a lifetime, and what does it matter if you don't? There are thousands of bizarre things in this world, and each one of them is ultimately too tiring. Ziyu is Lu Ziwen's son. This matter has a very wide impact. I must think clearly about it. Chen Liangdong did not hide it from her. You also know that I want to train Ziyu to be his successor. If he is Lu Ziwen's son, this matter will, if someone finds out, the consequences will be serious. This matter has been rotting in the stomach without anyone mentioning it. It was for no reason. Who would have thought that Gu Ziyu was Lu Ziwen's son? Ziyu didn't mention it, and you wouldn't have thought of it either. Yes, although I have heard Ziyu call Gu Ci mother for several years, I never thought that they were biological mother and son. Gu Ci is Gu Ziyu's sister at most. At that time, when he saw the genetic comparison between Gu Ziyu and Zhang Junlin, he thought that Gu Ziyu was a relative of the Zhang family. He was probably a cousin. His cousin's illegitimate child was not suitable for keeping at home. Chen Liangdong remembered that when he first met Gu Ziyu, his origin was a mystery, and no one could find out his identity and background. It seemed that there was no such person as Gu Ziyu in the world. Is he from the future? Xiaosai must have had a bad life in her last life. Dr. North thought for a while. Ziyu also had a bad life. Why do you say that? I used to be Xiaosai's psychiatrist. Her affairs are a secret and cannot be disclosed. Dr. North felt a little distressed. For so many years, I have loved her as my own daughter. I only know that her last life ended badly. Well, it was suicide, and Ziyu didn't survive. What? Chen Liangdong was shocked. Who killed our son Yu? Dr. North. Chen Liangdong held her hand and said, you've already leaked the secret, why don't you leak it more? Isn't there a lot of injuries on Ziyu's body? Chen Liangdong nodded. There were old and new injuries. The most famous judge of the National Security Bureau had seen Gu Ziyu's injuries and told him at that time that the child had been abused. Next time you ask him how he got hurt, if Ziyu wants to tell you, he should tell you. Dr. North still kept his bottom line, we can't talk more about Xiaosai's private matters. She revealed that she had some selfish motives. She wanted Chen Liangdong not to care too much about Ziyu's identity. As long as he had pity in his heart, he would be very tolerant. Whose son Ziyu was would not affect Chen Liangdong's training. Now Ziyu is the master's son, and is also recorded in the master's name. He has nothing to do with Lu Ziwen. This is what makes me wonder why Lu Ziwen would give his son to Zhang Junlin. It feels like he is playing a game of chess. Maybe the master will not have an heir, so Gu Ci's child will be adopted to him. Ziyu cannot legitimately be Lu Ziwen's son. It is better to keep it a secret. There are enough mysteries in Lu Ziwen, and there will be no benefit if it is exposed. Chen Liangdong sighed, let me think about this. By the way, is Zhang Junlin coming back by plane the day after tomorrow? Yes. Before Zhang Junlin got on the plane, he sent a text message to Ji Xian, asking him to pick him up at the airport. Ji Xian called him directly, aren't you visiting with Mr. Wang? I'll pick you up at the airport, okay. You can just call me directly, give people eye drops. Come on, it's okay. Ji Sun was eager to try and a little excited, okay, I'm following orders. Rong Li saw him smiling as if he didn't need money, and clicked his tongue, I'm so excited, is Zhang Junlin coming back? Go to the airport tomorrow morning and I'll pick you up. You're going to pick him up? Rong Li was confused, you show up so brazenly, Aren't you afraid of causing trouble for him? The matter between him and Zhang Junlin was tacitly understood by many people. Even if they acquiesced in their hearts, they didn't want to see it, so they just kept out of sight. If you tried to get involved, people would be very reluctant, so Ji Sun and Zhang Junlin were the last ones. It would be nice to keep a low profile and not be too ostentatious, but Zhang Junlin seemed to have no such intention. Is he crazy? Brother always does things in a systematic way and will not let me go to the airport for no reason. Ji Sun had an inexplicable trust in Zhang Junlin. Okay, I want to go to bed early. You really have your heart set on him? No. Ji Sun got up early in the morning and specially styled himself. He dressed like a model who was going to take a photo shoot. He looked like a nobleman in every gesture. Nick sent him to the airport. Zhang Junlin landed an hour after the plane. Ji Xian found a place to drink coffee and have breakfast, which attracted the attention of the passengers. He received 3 business cards. The 2 wanted to strike up a conversation and asked for their contact information. One of them turned out to be a talent scout because he was in at the airport. Nick knew it was safe and didn't stop him. When he saw it was a talent scout, Ji Sun was stunned. After declining them politely, Ji Huan gave Nick a look, and Nick guarded them like a doorkeeper. Zhang Junlin and his party landed on the plane and did not need to go through customs like ordinary passengers. Ji Huan waited for him at the designated place. This was a special passage and there were no passengers. When the group of them came out, Ji Huan saw Zhang Junlin at first sight. Zhang Junlin wore a standard iron gray suit, a high-quality black coat, a gray monochrome scarf around his neck, gold-rimmed glasses, and a suitcase. He stood out in the crowd and walked with wind. The smell of hormones hit his face, and the eyes behind the lenses were abstinent and restrained, but he himself was mixed with desire, making people want to take off his clothes. That is a kind of fatal sexual tension that belongs to men. Ji Huan is a designer, but essentially, he is an artist. All his inspirations come from Zhang Junlin. There is no artist who does not love his muse. Zhang Junlin is his muse. I feel not feeling well today, please take a day off. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 648. Chapter 648, Warning. Ji Sun was raised by a woman who was a private designer when he was a child. He was young and sensitive, and could observe people's emotions. At that time, he had the foundation of design. However, during the years when he was growing up, he never thought about designing anything. Until he met Zhang Junlin for the first time. Zhang Junlin wore very simple clothes that day, and the weather was very hot. A very simple t-shirt and jeans, but they gave him a different look. Later, Zhang Junlin was always by his side and wore the same clothes every day. He was very sensitive and felt that he was not as good looking as Zhang Junlin. He secretly wondered in his heart that one day he and Zhang Junlin were driven to the riverbed to fish for diamonds. The weather it was extremely hot, and everyone took off their shirts. Only Zhang Junlin was still wearing an old shirt. His body was wet with sweat and river water, and the shirt clung to his body. Ji Sun's mouth was dry, and a picture appeared in his mind. The way he looked in new clothes, the new clothes were designed by him. The next afternoon, he sat on the hillside with his drawing book and sketched out a set of men's clothes. It was the first time Ji Sun tried to design his own clothes. During that time, he was so inspired that he designed one set of clothes after another, and formed his own fixed design method. In the years after Zhang Junlin left, Ji Sun spent time in missing him by designing clothes, and even went crazy. He wanted to learn and make progress, and wanted to match him. Although Zhang Junlin never revealed his identity, Ji Sun also knew that he was knowledgeable and noble, and that he was a person on the clouds, different from him in the clouds. When he followed Lu Ziwen, he never thought that Lu Ziwen would train him to be his heir. He thought that Lu Ziwen would let him be his bodyguard. He had to work hard to become excellent so that he could use his best attitude when he reunited with his brother one day. I met him, so his design became an instant hit. When he held his first exhibition, he became famous all over the world and the flowers bloomed. I was very happy. A closer look at Ji-sun's designs shows that in the early days they were all men's clothing, and he became famous through men's clothing. Later, he would design women's clothing because Black Eagle's development also had to deal with women, and clothing and jewelry were the best stepping stones for women. However, his endless inspiration came from Zhang Junlin. That was his muse. Wearing the clothes he designed, Zhang Junlin was the most dazzling presence among the crowd. Ji-sun's inspiration surged once again, and he had already sketched out a new set of men's clothing in his mind. Winter is here, and it's the season to change my brother's clothes. After having Ji-sun, Zhang Junlin's wardrobe is full of new clothes, and he can always wear the latest designs and high-end designs from Longfenglu. When the delegation returned to China, someone came to pick them up. This location was very special. They were all staff. Ji Xian's presence was particularly special. He even wore the same coat as Zhang Junlin tacitly. He stood at the airport pickup port and faced him without any pressure. Zhang Junlin waved, "Brother." The corners of Zhang Junlin's lips were raised slightly. He was restrained and gentle. His face was quite stable, but his pace involuntarily quickened. Mr. Wang and his group also saw Ji-sun. They had read Ji-sun's information countless times, so they knew him. Yes, Ji Huan also recognized Mr. Wang at a glance. They had a meal together and were very impressed. Zhang Junlin later mentioned Mr. Wang's identity, and Ji Huan was not too surprised. In the blink of an eye, Zhang Junlin had walked to Ji Huan. After greeting Mr. Wang, Zhang Junlin took Ji Huan away. Zhang Qiang and a guard followed closely behind. Mr. Wang looked at their backs with complicated emotions. Zhang Junlin took his hand without any scruples, clasping his fingers tightly, with natural movements, as if he had done it countless times. Ji-sun didn't know what he said to him, but Zhang Junlin turned sideways, the smile on his lips never leaving. Hide. Lao Wang. He must have done it on purpose. This is a very implicit declaration of sovereignty. It can't be said to be a provocation, just playing a bright card and no longer hiding it. After Ji Huan got into the car, he raised the liftboard and rushed towards Zhang Junlin. Zhang Qiang and Nick listened to the sound coming from behind and started the car without looking away. As guards, they had to wear headphones to avoid being disturbed. The emergency situation was really difficult for them. It is true that a little separation is better than a new marriage. This little movement lasted for 5 or 6 minutes, and finally I heard Ji Xian gasping and said, "One day is like 3 autumns. If you have been gone for 1 week, that is 7 springs and autumns. I think you have lost weight. You touch it?" Zhang Junlin laughed and pinched his waist obediently. "I've lost weight. I'll check him out again tonight." Ji Huan smiled and leaned forward again, and Nick and Zhang Qiang heard another ambiguous sound. Zhang Qiang. It's so boring. Zhang Qiang really wanted to suggest that we find a hotel for you guys as soon as possible, so you don't have to go to the hospital. The two of them chatted for more than 10 minutes. Ji Huan still didn't let go of his hand. Zhang Junlin asked, "How is Ziyu?" "Eat well and drink well. It should be nothing serious. Ziyasai is afraid that the elders at home will worry about not releasing him from the hospital. The young man is very resentful." Ji-sun chuckled and said, "Are you going to get jet lag? Go home and take a nap before going to see him. Also, I fell asleep on the plane, so I don't have to be jet lagged." He knew Ji-sun wouldn't lie to him, but he still wanted to see it with his own eyes to feel at ease. Neither of them talked about work, nor did they mention Mr. Wang. Zhang Junlin did talk about some interesting things about him abroad. When they arrived at the hospital, Gu Ziu had just woken up, and Li Jiang brought food. He could eat some fish and shrimp recently, and the taste was appropriately strong. The young man ordered the meal with great interest, but when it was delivered, he found that the dish he ordered was spicy. There was none, and while he was bargaining with Li Jiang said, "This is made strictly according to the recipe given by Miss Care." "Then why are you asking me what I want to eat?" Gu Ziu pursed his lips. "What's the difference between this and taking off my pants to prevent me from peeing?" "Li Jiang, what kind of metaphor is this?" "Hey." Gu Ziu looked at the light meal and worried. "Li Jiang, I went to the weigh-in today and lost 6 pounds. I am already thin, can you bear it?" "Young master, if you eat less fruit, you can still eat." Li Jiang secretly wondered how he could still lose weight after eating 1 or 2 kilograms of fruit every day. Zhang Junlin and Ji Xian pushed the door open and walked in. Ji Xian passed by a porridge shop on the way here and bought Gu Ziu a piece of abalone rice with sauce, as well as steamed pork ribs and garlic okra. "Brother still loves me." Gu Ziu immediately abandoned the meal Li Jiang brought. "Jiang." Zhang Junlin chuckled and sat next to him. "I have lost a little weight. How is the wound healing?" Gu Ziu lifted up his clothes to show off his wound. "I have 9 lives, I'm fine." Zhang Junlin knew how dangerous this time was. If Lu Ziwen hadn't been at the scene, he would have had no choice but to make it to Ziyu's funeral. Gu Ziu was very heartbroken and felt sorry for Zhang Junlin's hard work these days. "Uncle, please go home and rest first. I'm really fine. There are a lot of people guarding the door. My mother is also in the hospital. She's very safe. I just eat and sleep every day and eat when I wake up." Although he had lost a lot of weight, Gu Ziu looked good. Zhang Junlin felt relieved when he saw it with his own eyes. Gu Ci was too busy to come to the ward to see Zhang Junlin. He stayed for an hour and left after Gu Ziu had finished his meal. After Ji Huan made a phone call, he asked Zhang Qiang to drive to the commercial street and took Zhang Junlin into a jewelry store. Zhang Junlin raised his eyebrows and asked, "What's wrong?" "I ordered something." Ji Sun chuckled and said, "I'm just here to pick it up. This jewelry store is a British brand, very low-key, with only one branch in China. Ji Sun ordered the ring 3 months ago and it was delivered 2 days ago. He originally wanted to wait for Zhang Junlin to come back and pick it up together." "Mr. Ji, you are here. This is your commandment." Zhang Junlin had a hunch when he approached the jewelry store. In fact, he also ordered a pair. The brand was different and he had to wait for the first half of the year. Ji Sun ordered a pair of rose gold rings, which were low-key, luxurious, and fashionable. They were set with a Ji Sun's finger size was only 1 size different from Zhang Junlin's. The rings looked exactly the same size. Ji Sun tried it on and it was the right size. He took Zhang Junlin's one and put it on him naturally. Zhang Junlin looked down at him. Ji Huan was 2 centimeters shorter than him. When he lowered his head slightly, he could smell the fragrance in his hair and feel his soft breathing. Ji Huan lowered his head and looked at Zhang Junlin's face. From the angle, his eyelashes are long and dense, his skin is fair, and the sunlight clearly highlights the down on his face. He looks cute and supple. This is a wolf cub wrapped in lambskin, not a monster. She is really well behaved, soft, and charming. He was willing to take advantage of this honey trap because he was deceived by this illusion. The ring was put on and the size was just right. He didn't even measure Zhang Junlin's fingers. He could tell by visual inspection that they were a pair of beautiful hands with long and straight fingers. The hands were pampered and looked like a pair of elastic ones. The piano hand looked particularly good with a rose gold ring on it. "It's so beautiful, brother, do you like it?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 649. Chapter 649 Guzio's mate selection criteria. Zhang Junlin ordered a pair of silver rings. He originally wanted a plain ring instead of diamonds, but Ji Huan has a good sense of fashion. He can also wear rings and earrings. He likes gems and diamonds very much. Zhang Junlin also set with a diamond. The range of men's diamond styles to choose from is relatively small, and they are all similar. Ji Xian also likes the pair of rose gold rings he chose. I like it, Zhang Junlin chuckled, took off Ji Sun's ring, and put it on Ji Sun solemnly. Ji Sun was startled for a moment, then started to laugh, with quite a sense of ceremony. Zhang Junlin originally planned to wear that pair of rings for him when he got engaged. Now, it doesn't matter if he has more than one pair of rings. The two walked out of the jewelry store, and Ji Sun specially held his hand and took a photo in the sun. After dinner, Guzio saw the photo of Ji Sunfa in the circle of friends. Two pairs of very beautiful men wore matching rings on their hands. Their fingers were intertwined in the sun. The sun fell on the diamond ring, reflecting a circle of colorful light. It was very nice. Show affection and die quickly, Guzio poured cold water on Ji Sun. Who in the financial circle didn't know that Ji Sun and Zhang Junlin were married? His circle of friends were all people in the financial circle, virtually declaring sovereignty. Guzio thought to himself, childish, his uncle would not post such things. Zhang Junlin's circle of friends only had a few forwarded financial news. Guzio refreshed and found Zhang Junlin's new news, and he had a bad feeling. Clicked in and saw exactly the same circle of friends. Zhang Junlin also has pictures and text. Boyfriend. Guzio. Ji Sun's circle of friends are all in the financial circle. Zhang Junlin is different. Guzio secretly asked Chen Liangdong, old man, can you see my uncle's circle of friends? Chen Liangdong took a screenshot of him 3 minutes later. Zhang Junlin did not block anyone, anyone can see it. Chen Liangdong also posted a thumbs up emoji with awesome words. When Gu Ci came to the ward, Guzio pulled her to complain. Gu Ci was so busy that he didn't even have time to look at it. The two of them posted the posts one after the other. Gu Ci both liked them. Guzio said, Uncle, are you completely letting go? After all, everyone's idea is to acquiesce in this relationship, but don't show off everywhere, don't be an eyesore, keep a low profile, don't be too high profile, but he insists on doing the opposite. Is this a belated rebellious period? Gu Ci chuckled and said, are you going to ask? I don't dare. Guzio, who is not afraid of anything, is still afraid of Zhang Junlin and Lu Ziwen. Do I have time to scold him? Hey, if my uncle can find a boyfriend, I should be able to find one too. Gu Ci. Guzio said to himself, I am cold, workaholic, taciturn, picky about food, and difficult to get along with. They are all shortcomings. I am different. I am lively, cheerful, interesting, pretty, smart, and have the same advantages basket. Uncle is also very beautiful. Guzio raised his index finger and shook it gently. Gu Ci asked calmly, what kind of partner does the baby want to find in the future? One that is good looking. I'm not as superficial as you and uncle. I think, great-grandpa, uncle, you, grandma, they only care about beauty. I'm different. I don't look for beautiful people. Guzio touched her face. He is pretty enough. Why? Gu Ci was confused. Who doesn't like beauties? Beauty is a scarce asset and everyone likes it. Guzio gave a thumbs up again. Although he was not sure what kind of partner he would find, one thing was very certain, beauty is not a scarce asset to me. I want a beautiful partner very soon. It's easy, you can buy it with money, and it's not scarce at all. Whether a person is beautiful or not, you can't always maintain your beauty in just 10 years. In the words of capitalists, this is a depreciating asset. At the age of 20, my appearance continues to depreciate. When I reach 30, I basically have to sell it. Beautiful assets come one after another. As long as I spend money, I will never be short of them. But intelligence is not. Intelligence and connotation are scarce. Resources, I want him to be smart, wise, emotionally stable, able to adapt to changes, and to be able to resonate with my soul. This is a scarce resource. Gu Ci looked at Gu Zia with difficulty. Baby, are your requirements for finding a partner a bit high? Why did she like Lu Ziwen in the first place? It is undeniable that at first glance, he was really good looking. If you ask Zhang Junlin why he fell in love with Ji Sun's beauty trap in the first place, the first answer would probably be good looking. Gu Ci carefully thought about Gu Zia's words and deeds. He rarely praised a person for being beautiful, and he had never been surprised by anyone's appearance. If Zhang Junlin's aesthetic terminal is Ji Sun, her aesthetic terminal is Lu Ziwen. Where is Ziyu? I'm afraid it's him. But Ji Sun, mother and father are both beautiful, emotionally stable, and not shocked by honor or disgrace. Are you sure? Gu Zia was shocked and blurted out, so confident. Do you think I have no memory of my childhood? Gu Ci. Especially you and Ji Sun, are you really sure? I understand, you want to find someone like your father or uncle. No, Gu Zia shook his head like a rattle. I will have nightmares. That's how you describe it. Gu Ci was discussing with him seriously. Neither Ji Sun nor I meet your requirements, but my father and uncle do. They have no soul resonance with me. Gu Ci. What kind of books did Lu Ziwen read to Gu Zia? Did it poison his mind? He was still able to list the criteria for choosing a mate at a young age, but he probably didn't follow what he found in the book. According to your request, I will be a bachelor for the rest of my life. It doesn't matter. Gu Zia spread his hands. That's very comfortable. Gu Ci looked at Gu Zia with difficulty in speaking, lowered her head and sent a message to Lu Ziwen, stop reading the pornographic book to Gu Zia. Why? He drank too much poisonous chicken soup. Gu Ci typed. Gu Zia looked at Gu Ci while chewing on an apple. Mom, are you and Dad complaining and saying bad things about me? No, Mom is praising you. You have great dreams at a young age, Gu Ci said with a chuckle. The decoration of Zhang Junlin and Ji Xian's new home was not finished yet. When they returned to Jiang's house, Zhang Junlin said that he didn't need to be jet-lag, so he went home and took a shower and slept, no matter how high-profile he posted on WeChat moments. Ji Xian sent him home, greeted his elders, and then returned to Universal. He was in a happy mood all the way. He passed by a flower shop and bought a bouquet of champagne roses to go home. Rong Li felt his tooth hurt when he saw it. You are so proud of the spring breeze, Xiaoxian, didn't you send out the roses? Here you go, Ji Sun gave it to him casually. I'll give you some luck to help you get out of singlehood as soon as possible. Get out, Rong Li kicked him away. Ji Sun raised her hand to show off the ring and asked Rong Li, do my hands look good? Rong Li. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 650. Chapter 650 Ji Sun's life experience. Rong Li saw his proud look and couldn't help but ask, you are so high profile, aren't you afraid of being beaten with a stick? Ji Xian was afraid of being beaten, especially when Zhang Junlin had an accident. Ji Xian chuckled, the time when I wanted to break up has passed. During that time, when something happened to him, I felt particularly uncomfortable and felt very sad. Understand, if it were not for me, his life would be beautiful and prosperous, and there would be no hardships. A writer once said that people who love each other don't have to be together, as long as they can meet by chance and know that they live in a certain place. Okay, but I'm not that good. I come to this world and want to live my life according to my heart. I don't want to meet my sweetheart by chance. I can only look at him from a distance and see him get married and have children, and live a smooth life. Who do I want? I have to grasp it, and I will choose to say goodbye to death. Later, I figured out that in many things, if you take a step back, others will take a step forward, just like sailing against the current. If you don't advance, you will retreat. As long as you have a firm goal, move forward bravely, even your enemies will retreat because of your attitude. I have fears and weaknesses, but I am willing to let it go. Everyone has weaknesses and constraints, so I am more willing to give it a go and take a gamble than anyone else. If I win, my life will be smooth. If I lose, I have nothing to lose. As long as I am more determined, others will quit. It's a simple truth. It is not easy to understand, but once he understands it, he will not let it go. If he had to choose between separation in life and separation in death, he would choose separation in death rather than separation in life. Live a happy life, and after death, dust will return to dust, and earth will return to earth. He is already alone, without worries, and just needs to live happily without looking forward or backward. He found that the more determined he is, the safer Zhang Junlin will be. Ji Sun looked at the ring on his hand. No matter what happened in his life, he would never let it go. At that time, Zhang Junlin was given a ring and put it on with ulterior motives, which almost caused their death. Now he wears it willingly, and he has no regrets in his life. Do you want a more perfect life? Rong Li asked. Ji Sun. I've found some clues about your parents. Ji Sun's smile faded and he was silent for a moment. No need to check. Rong Li raised his eyebrows. Are you sure? Ji Sun chuckled and said, I don't need them in my life anymore. Ji Sun's life experience has been investigated for many years, but nothing has been found. Ji Sun gave up 5 years ago. Rong Li recently had nothing to do and followed the clues that Lu Ziwen dug up to find out. Ji Sun was thrown into the street. When he was thrown on the street, he was too young and could not remember many things. In addition, he suffered a head injury and his memory was damaged. Back then, cameras were not everywhere like they are now, so it was very difficult to investigate. I can only find some old newspapers from that year. When Ji Sun was thrown into the street, he was well dressed and wore the brand's children's clothing of the season. Lu Ziwen once told Rong Li that Ji Sun had been beautiful since he was a child. If the family is not short of money, why should they lose him? If it is an illegitimate child, it is not difficult to raise him, and he can help the family when he becomes a talented person. After all, he is related by blood, and the possibility of revenge from his enemies is relatively high. Because of Lu Ziwen's words, Ji Sun thought that his parents might not have lost him on purpose, so he searched for many years. Unfortunately, there were very few clues. After the investigation, the clues were all gone, so Ji Sun stopped spending time here. Ji Sun's appearance has no mixed race genes and is purely Oriental in appearance, so they have been focusing their investigation on the Chinese community. They started investigating in the city where Ji Sun has memories. It is very rare for a child of his to wander on the street. Of Xiaoxian, I grew up in country and a 3-year-old child is wandering on the street. If the police see it, they will never ignore it. You will be sent to an orphanage to live, and you will not live with homeless people all the time. Rong Li said, we have never thought of this. The street where you wander is a wealthy neighborhood with high taxes and frequent patrols. You will not encounter the patrol police once, and you will not always be there. Wandering on the streets. Ji Sun has also thought about this paragraph, but it is too troublesome to check it from the system there. Over the years, whether it was job transfers or resignations, many people could not be found, and it was difficult to check. Rong Li said, I asked Brown to check the patrol officers on that street. One police officer still has an impression. It was indeed the police officer back then. Someone once said hello, Don't pay attention to the children wandering on the street. He was particularly impressed by this. Once when he was patrolling, he should have seen you and wanted to take you back to the police station and send you to the welfare home, but he was stopped. Later, when you wandered to another city, he never saw you again. For a long time, he felt guilty, thinking that you had died somewhere. Ji-sun's expression turned pale. If my enemy takes revenge, why don't you just kill me and let me wander on the street? Maybe you are too young. Many people are very evil and abide by the rules on the road. Children, women, and pregnant women will not move. If you are left on the street, you may die on your own. Wrongly frowned. There is only one thing. It's strange. I checked the crime report records of that year, and no one reported a missing person. There are many doubts about this matter. First, if it was revenge from the enemy, your family must have gone back to report the crime. Why is there no record? Lost. Secondly, if you were an illegitimate child and were thrown into the street on purpose, your mother would definitely report it, unless they were all gone and you were insignificant. Thirdly, who has the ability to make the patrol in that neighborhood? They all ignore your existence, Xiaoxian. I have gone to such great lengths to prove that your identity is not insignificant. I can only think of these points for the time being. It is up to you whether to check your life experience. If so, let Brown do it. I'm also a little worried. If you want to investigate, I will send someone with trustworthiness to investigate slowly. There won't be only one person who has an impression. As long as you give enough money, you can dig out enough details. Ji Huan is sitting by the window, like a statue. Look, what is the meaning of so many years? If you really wanted to find him, there would be no news at all after all these years. Someone else's child was lost. After more than 10 years of searching for him, he traveled all over the world. Even if he didn't see his body alive or dead, he still had to find someone to understand. However, there was no news from his parents. It can only be said that he really meant nothing to his parents. Important. Although he didn't care anymore, it would still be hurtful to find out the truth. He has indeed fantasized about who gave birth to him, who his parents were, whether they took him out to play, and accidentally got lost. He really doesn't remember why he appeared on the street. There has been no news for so many years. No matter what the truth is, it is very hurtful. I don't want to check anymore. Ji-sun smiled slowly. That's it, I have a family too. Moi. End of this chapter.